There's a real danger we may run out of superlatives this week, because once again the weather delivered cracking Cowsweek sailing on Monday. Again there was bright sunshine, and although the temperature was cooler than Sunday, conditions were perfect, with a west-southwesterly which increased through the day to deliver 20 knots in the afternoon. The SB3s were sent east from the squadron start line, even though the rest of the fleets would be sent west. As the fleet headed east under the asymmetric spinnakers, they split, with some choosing to come into the island shore, while the bulk of the fleet headed down the middle of the Solent. Among those coming inshore was Rumbelflug, which ended up finishing 5th. At their penultimate mark, David Wilkinson's Powder Monkey had a good lead over eShopFittings.com. Colin Simmons in Doolally was 3rd around this mark, but on the way to the finish he moved into the lead, with Glenn Burke in Mustoe taking 2nd, while Powder Monkey dropped to 4th. Class 1 were first away on the Black Group line, and they all chose to start at the outer end by West Bramble, where the tide was running at just over a knot against them. They and the fleets which followed faced a beat along the mainland shore to keep out of the tide. This class includes this pretty Kerr 50 Snow Leopard, the Swan 601 Spirit of Jethu, a couple of Volvo 60s, and no less than 5 TP52s. They all made an impressive sight as they beat into the 8 to 10 knot westerly on their way to their first mark at Peters and May. The zigzag course in the west would take them as far as Dunford's beyond Lymington. Already the crews looked as if they were enjoying their day on the water. There was a bit of barging at the pin end by Class 2, and Henry Lloyd was squeezed out by the Swan 45 Fever, which then hit the line too early and had to return. Class 3 has 52 entrants, and many of them seem very keen to get the race underway. So keen, in fact, that they caused a general recall. At the second attempt, they were much more subdued, and nobody was within 50 yards of a line at the gun. In fact, the wind had shifted towards the southwest and caught most of the boats unawares. This fleet contains quite a lot of overseas visitors, from Holland, Belgium, France and Germany. But out in front at this stage was the British Swan 42 Uxorious. Over on the dayboat start line, the combined start for the 1720s and sportsboat fleets was getting underway. The 1720 used to be a popular class which fielded large fleets, but now the current fashion is the smaller Laser SB3, and the 1720 fleet has only 10 boats racing at this Cowsweek. Low tides have seemed unusually low this week, given that we're not on springs, and again the bottom came up to catch the unwary. As they beat west towards their first mark of Baxter's, beyond Gurnard Ledge, it was Inflection 2 which held a small lead over Inflection. At the head of a sportsboat fleet at this stage was the modified Melges 24 Af Wiedershenpet. Nearby, one of the sonars, steered by the severely disabled American Kerry Gruson, was supporting the Ellen MacArthur Trust's appeal to turn cows blue on Charity Day. We caught up with the sports boats and 1720s later, just after their leeward mark in the eastern Solent. Auf Wiedershenpet was still leading the sports boats on the water, but they were dropped to 6th on handicap, with the Trip 26 Abstention 2 taking the class win. In the 1720s, Corconut led away from the leeward mark, but they too slipped back to finish 4th, while La Lacorny came through to take the winner's gun. Back in the western Solent, the wind was building to a solid 20 knots and was delivering some exciting sailing for classes 3, 4 and 5 as they ran down towards Ray Marine, where they dropped their kites before reaching across to Murray's on the island shore. The increase in wind was to give perfect conditions for the TP52s in Class 1 to strut their stuff. We ran alongside Flash Glove as she screamed downwind at 20 knots in a close battle with the Rykel 60 Loki. These boats made a magnificent sight as they traded jibe for jibe and hurtled towards South Bramble. In the end it was Loki which took the gun on the water, but it was Flash Glove that was to take the handicap win ahead of 3 other TP52s. Exabyte 4 led Class 2 home, but it was to be Dark and Steamy which took the handicap win by 2.5 minutes. So it was a day for the big boats to revel in the conditions and for us to enjoy the display of sheer speed by the TP52s, which made the Solent look very small indeed. And that, as they say in sailing and television, is a wrap.